And it's time for another episode of Buckle Up. So hopefully we're going to get into a little bit of good trouble, or at least let's see what type of trouble I get myself into today. So buckle up, javelinas. We have a very distinguished group of three guests with me. Our university president, Dr. Robert Vela, who's been here all of, 3 months now? 4 months?
3 months officially, I believe.
3 months, wow. We also have Dr. Manuel Flores, professor of communications and author of 3 books, but another one coming out. Manuel, could you list them for us?
My goodness, well, they're all about Tejanos. Cuentos Tejanos is one in which tell tales of South Texas, and that's become very popular, sold very well. And the one that sold the best was Chicanadas, which is my life in South Texas as a Mexican-American. And it's got a lot of history in it as well. And, of course, I did the textbook, Hispanics in American Media. And it's just about Hispanics in American media. And I got another version of it coming out next month. And I help with the Mujeres and Mujeres and book that a lot of the faculty people did here. So 4 or 5 books that I've worked on.
And we have Dr. Alberto Rodriguez, Associate Professor of History and the new Director of the Mexican American Studies Institute. How you doing, Alberto?
Doing well. Glad to be here.
And of course, I am Dr. Michael Huff from the Department of History. So we have Vela, Flores, Rodriguez, and Huff. It's sort of like a Sesame Street episode. One of these things is not like the others. But in many ways, that's really the topic of our conversation today, because what I wanted to talk about, what these gentlemen agreed to talk with me about, is what it means for Texas A&M University Kingsville to be an HSI, or a Hispanic Serving Institution. And in many ways, I mean, if you look at our enrollment, normally that would be, please hit me with something else, Captain Obvious, because if you look at our breakdown of our enrollment out of, and this is from fall of 2021, out of 6,048 students, that includes undergrad, master's, and PhD students, 68.7% Hispanic, 15.1% white, 9.2% international, 4.3% African American, and others who did not identify in a ethnicity or national origin, 2.6%. So we are definitely at just about 69% a Hispanic serving institution with a very large Hispanic enrollment. But really, that's the question for the day. What does it mean to be a Hispanic serving institution? So I'm going to start with the boss here.
Well, thank you. What a great question. I think for a lot of us that have been in higher ed for quite some time, we know exactly what this means. But for a lot of institutions that are just on the journey, I know a lot of colleagues are interested in that Title V money that comes along with that designation to be able to begin the foundational work that we need to be able to start building those blocks for students.
Let me interrupt you for just a second, Dr. Villa, because a lot of our students and a lot of our listeners, you just said Title V, and they're going to have absolutely no clue what that means.
So Title V is just a designation for HSIs to be able to apply for federal funds as building blocks to be able to propel the Hispanic Latino agenda within your institutions to ensure that those students feel welcomed, feel engaged, and ultimately graduate from your institution. So you must be an HSI to be able to compete for those monies. So that's at the core, federal funding available for the institutions that do meet that designation. But for us, I think at A&M Kingsville, it's so much more than that, because this is who we are. This is our culture. So we like to talk about HSIs as really a Hispanic thriving institutions. What are we doing when the majority of our population who we serve at the tune of 70%, and what are we doing to ensure that we're being very intentional about Latino student success, right? So it's a tremendous opportunity for us to ensure that we're fulfilling our promise and our mission in our backyard.
And Dr. Flores, you've written, as I gave you the opportunity to tell people, extensively about being Hispanic in South Texas. And you've been at Texas A&M University Kingsville since 2000, or was that before? 2010?
At least. Yes, at least.
I can't believe I've been here longer than you.
Well, yeah, it seems like I've been here forever, but no. But listen, an HSI is more than a title, more than just having the title HSI. You've got to really go out and show the people that you are an HSI. For example, UTSA and Arizona State University, you enter those campuses, and although they don't have the percentage of Hispanic students that we do, and you know that those are HSI, they're Hispanic Serving Institutions, and they use their art and their buildings to kind of show and prove that they're proud to be that. UTSA, UT San Antonio, Santa Barraza, one of our professors here, was the one that used all the artwork, did all the artwork, original artwork for UTSA when it first opened. And it's got a touch of being an Hispanic. It's an indigenous Hispanic, but nonetheless, it's Hispanic. And we need to show who we are. We cannot be an apologetic HSI. We can't be like, yes, but we have 70% of our students. We don't need to do anything else. We need to show that we are an Hispanic Serving Institution with the face of our campus, what people see.
Okay. Now, for the first time, I mentioned that we now have a Mexican American Studies Institute. So that actually hasn't officially opened yet.
Yeah, I think the title starts September 1st, but well, you guys know me, I get a little head start. So, but this is part of what President Vela was talking about. And I cast it as we need to stop being a Hispanic enrolling institute and be a serving institute and have that sense of belonging. I know I'm throwing a lot of terms out there, but we had an ethnic studies back in the 70s that served this purpose, right? And we are we have long roots in the Chicano movement, right? By the 90s, I would say 95, maybe 2000, that sort of starts disappearing, right? So we need to make sure that not only is what many of us call it, this is an HHSI, Historically Hispanic Serving Institute. Since the doors opened in 1925, we've had Hispanic students and very involved Hispanic students, part of student government, sports in 1925 and 1926. Large population of women before 1945 that were enrolling here. And that needs to be recognized, right? Because what all this means is at the core is graduating our students, making sure they come here and they have a great experience and they connect. And that's across the universities, that idea that they have a sense of belonging where they see faces and sounds that are familiar with, right? And that idea, too many people are chasing, like President Vela said, the HSI 25%. It's much more than that. It's a serving. It can be an enrolling, right? That takes very different roles, and this is what I'll have maybe Dr. Vela talk about excelencia here because I think it's very, very important and something that we're going to make sure we go after. A lot of people are really good at getting the HSI title, but not very good at the engaging and actually serving part of it.
So what's the difference between a Hispanic enrolling university versus a Hispanic serving university or a Hispanic thriving university? Because as you guys are talking, and as many of us know, there are very different things, but it's linguistically a very subtle difference. But in practice, it's a very large difference.
Yeah, I think for me, it means being intentional and strategic about who we serve in our Latino student population, right? Being, as you mentioned, unapologetic about who we serve in our backyard, which over the years, historically, Latino students have been marginalized and really pushed aside to say maybe you're better off doing other jobs, but not really higher ed or university-like type jobs. So for us, it's more about, are we being intentional ensuring that our students are coming to a university that's really designed to ensure their success here, especially when you serve a predominantly Hispanic population, right? That requires strategic planning. That requires that within your strategic plan, you're being intentional and thoughtful about driving the mission home, about who you serve. Let's face it, this is where we are. This is where we live. We live in South Texas, deep-rooted in Hispanic culture. And what are we doing intentionally through the arts, through academics, through teaching and learning, through engagement opportunities, through engaging our community, that's intentional to ensure that we highly honor and value and not be embarrassed by who we are and where we grew up. It's really ensuring that this next generation of students understand that our culture is just as valuable, just as important to the betterment of a community, to the betterment of this society.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think we have to have those areas where we gather. I mean, this is a perfect example, right? I mean, here we are. I mean, this is exactly about serving, right? And where you have these conversations, or where a student is having a tough day. And my institute, well, we have space for them physically to say, hey, man, I'm having a tough day. They see other students, or they see faculty that are like them, or even faculty that are vested in them, you know. And then sometimes I don't have to be Latino, but they understand their plight, right? We've lacked that. I've been here 10 years, and there was very few places for students to gather outside the sub and just have, just see and hear the sounds that are like them. As first-gen students, all of us here, we understand that when we went to college, we didn't have that. We had to look for it, and sometimes it was difficult to find. We don't want that for our students. We want, like President Vela said, we want that to be intentionally. Hey, here's this giant sign, Mexican American Studies Institute. Come on in, man. You know what I mean? Here's this art that has your brown skin, your Virgen de Guadalupe, and it's speaking to you, right? And those little things matter. I mean, even just speaking Spanglish to somebody to hear it, I'm like, oh, wow.
It's okay.
It's okay. There's nothing wrong with it.
It's okay to speak Spanglish.
Yeah.
And Albert, let me give you an example, if I may. I have been involved in South Texas media for a long time, and people in South Texas expect us to be Hispanic serving. They know that. But the reporters, when they come to Kingsville and they visit us, like in my office, they all visit me because they know me. At least the ones in the past used to know me. I don't know so much about the future, some of the present ones in the future. But they always ask me, where is your Hispanic statue? Where is your Hispanic monument? And I say, well, we got it in Marangel, which we are very proud of, but there is no one Hispanic monument that we have. ANMCC has Dr. Hector P. Garcia, and it's a big monument. We don't have that. Where is your Hispanic art? UTSA has Hispanic art. Arizona State, as you drive in, you see all the murals. We don't have a mural at Texas A&M Kingston. We have nothing. But nonetheless, we are serving Hispanics. And so, yeah, it's hard. And all my students are mainly Hispanic. It's hard to get some of this, especially first-time in college students, to understand that we're proud of you. Which is one of the reasons why I wrote this series of books that I wrote, because all the stories are about South Texas. So we have to have a focus. We have to be obvious, unapologetic. Thank you for repeating the word. We can't say, bueno, pobrecito, let's not do this. No, we can't do that. We got to say we're Hispanics, we're serving Hispanics, and this is South Texas. And we are a university of opportunity, and think of all the Hispanic students who got an opportunity here, including myself and my wife, including that. We are an Hispanic Serving Institution, and we should be proud, and we should just blare it out there. Albert, your program is going to be fantastic.
We're
Mexican American Studies.
Yeah.
And it's the first type of its kind, and I think that is fantastic.
Yeah. And I think, at the core of this, it's not about me. It's about,
of course,
what legacy can you leave? And many of you guys know that I recruit a lot, and I, as a first-gen student that lives in the Valley, I can't look that mom in the face, or that grandpa in the face, vas a cuidar mi hijo or mi hija. And knowing that, I'm getting chills just thinking about it, that I might not see that student again because there's no space for them to gather. That, like, when I got this offer to do this, because I tell Dr. Velez all the time that I don't want any administrative jobs ever. I'm perfectly happy teaching, and running a journal. But this goes to the point that if you want change, you got to step up. As student, as staff, you have faculty, we can complain all we want, but when we start doing stuff and stepping up, it doesn't matter, And so I took this position, and I, Manuel, I worked with you quite a lot, and you, Dr. Vela, you've seen what I've been doing. I'm going to do it to the fullest. And I think it's not for me. It's for my students. It's for my staff. At the same time, the one thing that I think we haven't talked about enough, and I think it's important we talk about students, but it also retains our faculty and our staff. And when they see themselves also as part of this bigger project, not just maybe the engineering college or just the history, and it ties people together, and it helps with recruit and retention, because it's hard, and we've seen it. Dr. Huff and I, we've gone through people every 3 years or so. We have somebody new, and it's tough to start that. So I think it's a combination of not only students but recruiting faculty that have ties to the area, that respect the area, maintain staff. I mean, when we got Dr. Vela, we're so blessed that he understands the area. There was no learning curve, that he's going to have to learn what South Texas is like. No. And that's important.
Well, the good thing about having a president who is an alumni of this institution, actually triple alumni, correct?
Correct.
Is not only does he understand our students, he was one of them.
I was.
Yeah. But so I got two questions sort of back to back that I want to explore. But first, you mentioned the faculty, and we know the student population, but our faculty population doesn't necessarily match up with our student population, nor will probably it ever, but in an ideal world, maybe. But from fall of 2020 is the last figures that I could find. We had 414 faculty between full-time FTEs, full-time teaching equivalents, and adjuncts. Whites made up 42.5%. Hispanics, the next largest group, 21.3%. The next largest group is people who did not identify themselves as any other, or some as just others, 19.3%. Asians, 10.8%, total of 45 on that. Okay. International faculty, 3.8%, and African Americans, 2.2%. And for the actual number, that would be 9. So, if you look at percentages, and in any institution, you're never going to get something matched up. And I didn't do this by gender, and I probably should have as well, because that's just as important, so apologies on that. Being white myself, and looking at this, I would imagine, because I have to imagine, that if I was from a marginalized minority group, one has historically been so, I would really want to see my professors sort of look like me, that I have that example, that I don't have just some white guy like myself who has a savior complex, who's coming to save all of his minority brethren. Yeah, I'll say the quiet parts out loud. But that I want somebody that's a real role model to me. So, do we have plans on trying to increase Hispanic faculty? What are those plans? Are we talking about targeting hiring in certain areas? Albert, you and I have had several conversations about this.
Well, the numbers
it is important for students to be able to see that. Just like at historically black colleges and universities, they have the same type of efforts there.
The numbers are actually lower, Mike. That number that you looked at is a large population of the Hispanic faculty are adjuncts and lecturers.
Right.
The number on campus, and as part of Hispanic Faculty Council, and Manuel also, we did the numbers back 3 years ago. There's only 35 faculty that are tenure track in the whole campus. That's less than 8%, less than 10%. And we've lost some people. And
the information on our own website does not distinguish that.
So. And that's important because a lecturer and adjunct can leave every year. You know what I mean? And so, the numbers are something like over 100 lecturers and people who were like associate professors of practice, 35 of us in this campus. And it was pretty even, women and men. And maybe I'll let Dr. Vela talk about the strategic plan a little bit. But we were, as a group, we approached upper administration and said, this is a problem. Hiring of year-to-year faculty is okay, but they need to be vested in their students, and they need to see people that are here that are in the long run, and then we lose good people. But there is a plan in place that is a 5-year plan.
Yes. I want to just emphasize the role models that we have here with Alberto and Manuel and what they're doing, right? Because they represent some courageous work over many years to just get this on the table to discuss. Now, we can wait around and hope that things change and will it and grit it. It's not gonna work. If we're not intentional about the recruitment of Latino faculty to these ranks, they're not going to come. So how do we get them here? Because studies do show, right, that the more aligned your faculty are with your student body, and that includes staff and administrators, the likelihood is even greater that the students will feel a sense of belonging. They will understand that and value their culture because they understand how important that is. Obviously, we've got some work there. There are frameworks out there like Excelencia in Education and other things that help us to better ensure that we can validate those efforts in a very intentional, strategic way. And I know Alberto's involved along with Dr. Lujan and others around how do we bring the seal of Excelencia to A&M Kingsville to ensure that there's quality, not just in the efforts, but ensuring that faculty and staff and administrators represent our student body, because right now it doesn't. Now, I want to be very clear that this is where we are. We need to be very intentional about recruiting more Latinos, but how do you recruit more Latinos here? By doing the things that attract Latino professionals and faculty to your campus. So what are we doing to attract more Latino talent to our campus, for one? And I think we're going to get on that journey. But another thing I want to emphasize, not to exclude anyone, what I am interested also is that educator heart. And that doesn't see color sometimes. So if you, as you said, you know, you're the white person here, is what can you do to better educate yourself about the culture and make those efforts? So what are we going to do for the faculty that want to know more and want to expand that, right? So what are we doing in-house around professional development to be sure that we're more inclusive rather than excluding folks, right? But we've got a problem that a lot of institutions all over this country face, is that these types of representations, when you look at faculty, staff, don't represent student bodies, and they're changing and changing quickly, and we need to be intentional about responding to those.
But we knew that this plan was coming up, so we the strategic plan coming up, and so we were intentionally about thinking about how do we get on this plan, because that's what's going to get funded for the next 5 years. And we just put the numbers, and we talked to, I don't know, at that point it was President Hussey and there were Provost Reinish, and they went up and they saw a problem and they asked for, I believe, a 15% increase in Latino faculty. And the Vice Chancellor and the Chancellor said, why 15? You're sitting at 8 or 9. They said, it's going to be at least 33. And so in the strategic plan right now, in the next 5 years, there is a push to at least get 33% increase in Latino hiring, Latino faculty. And the whole conversation, they won't come. Yeah, they'll come. And they'll stay if you provide, like Dr. Vela said, if you provide that environment for them, because you know what? Nobody wants to be stuck in the middle of Nebraska with no support. They get all the support they want, but if they're from El Bayuco or they're from the Coastal Bend, they're going to come home. They all want to come home. We all want to come home. And so we need to be intentionally also about providing those spaces. But we had these conversations with the Hispanic Faculty Council, Manuel and I, and 35 other faculty. What do we target? And we understand that if you're not on that plan, it's great talk, but that's where the money goes. And so we were able to get on that line, and I think we're starting year 2 now, and the system recognized it. And you're exactly right. Ideally the system wants it to match what your student body is. But for us and Laredo's sitting at 90%. We're sitting at 72, 70. More like a third would be great. Even a little, maybe 40%, that would be great. Because right now, and so they recognize it. So there's movement here now. We have to get the hires. We hired some couple of people. We hired a great one. I don't know if you know, from arts, from modern languages. Luis Cortez is amazing.
I met him yesterday.
He's good people, man.
Yes.
He's
from Southern California.
Yeah, from San Diego. They keep on saying San Diego. He goes, San Diego, Texas? No, San Diego, California. He doesn't know. So I've been taking him under arms. And that's the other part I want to say about this. I think is very important. I know it's, and all of us should do this, including our non-Latino faculty, is that we need to take those people and make them feel like they're part of the community, right? And I took Luis and I showed him around. Hey, man, you matter. This is important. Whatever you need, just don't leave them out there floating around because they will get lost.
To give sort of a plug to our own department.
Yes.
Department of History, Political Science, Philosophy, and Criminal Justice, though we don't have the CJ on our letterhead. Yeah. We have in the department a culture of acceptance and a culture of support of our junior faculty, no matter what they look like. But what you mentioned sort of hit me as being really important is, especially for junior faculty coming in and junior faculty of color, a mentorship program, a support network campus-wide for them.
Yeah, exactly.
And so what you're doing with, I'm sorry, I've already forgotten his name from language and literature.
Luis.
Cortez.
Dr. Cortez, yeah. So
Sorry,
the
Dr.
the
Cortez.
other part of this is that we also targeted, I mean, and you know this, and Manuel knows this, Dr. Vela might not know this, but 4 years ago, everybody in upper administration was white. And we were intentional about hiring, when the positions came up, a DEI director, taking our interim tags around people that were Latino that had been sitting there for a long time, such as Rolly and Maria Martinez. The chief of staff position came up. When we were intentionally also of having at least one member on every hiring committee that was from dean up.
I think, Alberto, we need to clarify some things. You keep saying we, and it's more than just he and I, and it's the Hispanic Faculty Council.
Yeah.
So we
Thanks for mentioning that.
We formed the Hispanic Faculty Council exactly for the reasons that we are here today.
Exactly.
To make sure people understand that we're vested in this university, that we care about this university and its students, and we need to see some changes in order to keep students. We're talking retention, folks, basically.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're trying to do in the Hispanic Faculty Council, of which you are a leader, Albert. You did a wonderful job.
I'm a member.
Thank you. Thank you. But you're a leader, and you did a wonderful job. And I helped every now and then, somewhere here and there. But you made it happen. And of course, several of us went up to talk to Dr. Hussey and then Dr. Hallmart. And those little conversations had never been had before. You realize that. They'd never been had before. And it was very important that we had the Hispanic Faculty Council to kind of carry the banner for us. You mentioned another word, environment. The environment is very important. And I want to go back to my first statement where I said that we don't look like an Hispanic Serving Institute. Well, if we're going to teach people that we're proud to teach Hispanics, let's show them that we are. With art, with statues. Let's show them. Let's not let the media ask, where is your Hispanic statue? Let's not let them ask that anymore. Let's show them that we're so proud of our culture and heritage and history here in South Texas that we're going to display it, just like some of the other universities that talked about did. And we can set that environment. Therefore, when a new professor comes in, you know that we are proud as an institution of being Hispanic. And I'm not talking just about an Hispanic professor. I'm talking about a black or a white or an Indian or an international. Well, this is important to this university. My goodness, you can tell it just with the statues that we have up. The statue of Gil Stanky, the statue of Doc White. Those two things are important to us, athletics and engineering. Where's the Hispanic statue? Although Irma Rangel is there, she's a school of pharmacy. So I think the environment is very important. And of course, we tailor our environment to fit our curriculum. And that's harder to do.
For those out there who don't know who Irma Rangel is, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, she was longtime representative to the State House and chair of the Higher Education Committee, correct?
Yes.
So, and she was, I wouldn't call it necessarily a patron, but she really did her best to try to take care of this university because it was so important to her.
To South Texas.
And to South Texas as well.
And actually, it goes way beyond that. Irma Rangel and Carlos Truan, two graduates of our university, pushed for the South Texas Initiative, STI. The South Texas Initiative at the legislative level in Austin called for professional schools to be opened and at different universities throughout South Texas. That includes the medical school in the Rio Grande Valley. Okay, that includes the nursing school at A&M Corpus Christi. Yeah, she pushed for that. And other schools at Sul Ross and other places. The South Texas Initiative kind of started the ball moving for South Texas to join the higher education circle, full-fledged members with professional programs. And the pharmacy school, she fought for it to be part of our university, of her university. We didn't do it politically. What the heck? It's there. And her statue is there. And that in itself is quite a testament to her legislative battle that she had in Austin.
Let me circle back real quick on something I want to highlight is that the courage of people that join Hispanic Faculty Council and they found community, but at the same time, it takes a lot to put your name out there, and people who don't have tenure or are aspiring to get full, and there might be retaliation. But people feel so vested and believe in this university and what we want to do that they were said, I'm going to be part of this. And it's a scary thing to step out. I mean, and to step out and say, you know what, I'm going to speak up. You know, as a group, I'm going to speak out. Maybe I don't have tenure. Maybe I aspire to be a dean, and now that's gone. These people who are part of this group are courageous. I know there's only somos poquitos, pero bastantes. Picosos, only 30.
Okay, I'm left out of that one because
we're little, but we're a small group. But we're a group of fighters. You know what I mean? And we speak truth to power. I mean, and we're not there to cause problems. We're there to come up with solutions. We can complain all we want, but until you have a solution that you present, what's the purpose of this? So I really want to highlight the courage of these men and women to be part of this, because it's a scary thing. I mean, especially the history in higher ed where people can be gone.
Well, this is coming from my own ignorance or naivety. Naivety, what the heck? Either way. So you mentioned retaliation. What retaliation would there be about speaking out about wanting more visible Hispanic presence on campus in the faculty, in Hispanic culture on campus? So,
well, yeah, it's that. And
educate me and the rest of us,
Let's
please.
just put it real simple. Okay, say you have a dean that's not supportive of bilingual education, and there's money to be had. That person that department's not getting the money now. Or let's say there's a person that aspires to be an associate dean, and because that person highlighted there was issues within her program or their program, now that's not up for grabs anymore. You know what I mean? And I mean, it's things like that. Or say that, I mean, that person hasn't had tenure yet, and you're shedding light on the idea that this particular college or department chair we have issues here. We don't have enough people. We haven't hired enough people. Well, at the end of the day, who votes on your committee? I'm only a person of one in my department. You know this, right?
Right.
And so, I can have all
unanimous going through, but that's a whole other issue.
Yeah. So the idea is that that's a scary space to be the only voice and the only brown face in those, and if you aspire to be this, that could be taken away from you real quick.
So what you're talking about is really, and quite honestly, so far out of my own personal experience that for me and for other people, I'm sure on campus, for our students, it's kind of hard to wrap our own heads around that. And if we talk about, we might as well talk about it, white privilege, that's what white privilege is I've never had to think about that. That's never been a consideration for me. That's not an anchor, possibly, I mean, if we use that metaphor, keep, holding me or making my progress go more slowly than others.
But you have to look at it in a historical context. In other words, we are the children of the generation that was told you can't speak Spanish, or we are that generation that told you can't speak Spanish in school. We are the children whose parents could not get a loan to buy a house. We are the children of the veteran who couldn't get a GI Bill loan. We are those people, so we know what happens when you do things wrong. We know that you're punished. We have it in the back of our mind. And those of us who are 50 plus certainly understand that if you take a risk out there in the white world, things can happen to you. You can't get a job. You can't get a promotion. You can't get a loan. You can't admit into a school.
This is something I know as a historian and a professor of history historically,
you should know that.
But absolutely do not relate to it, I guess, on an emotional level, because I've never had to go through that.
I mean, I know I'm going to put Dr. Vela on the spot here, but I mean, we have the top president of community colleges in the country sitting in front of us as the Aspen winner. This man should be picked up by Ohio State, by Yale, by Cambridge.
Stop suggesting that.
No. What I'm saying is that sometimes those avenues are not open to us.
Okay.
We always have to be better than better, and sometimes that's not even good enough. And I mean, this man has done. I mean, we talk about Sila Excelencia. This guy, you rate the low. You put the roadmap down. You know what I mean? And I'm not asking to tell us, I was a system person, guess who I'm coming after? The top college in the country, man. Where am I getting my students? So even then, right? I don't. I know I put you on the spot, but
no, you're not putting me on the spot. I think I'm reflecting because, those accolades, those accomplishments were really to ensure that when there was an opportunity to come back home to a university that gave me a shot early on, that I could demonstrate that I was the most qualified person for that job. As back to exactly what you were talking about, I needed to ensure that there was no questions left on the table with that committee, that I was the most qualified individual for this job. And that's what I doubled down on, simply because I wanted to come back home to serve my community, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that what attracts a lot of Latinos and Latinas is, okay, you go out and you do great things for other communities, but then you're like, what am I doing for my own community that gave me a shot, right? Thus you come back. And hopefully. And I tell you, early on in my career, I had no intentions of, I'm thinking, go north, keep going north. And then that gravitational pull to come back and say, I don't sign up for jobs, I sign up for missions. This was a mission that's worth fighting for. This is a mission that I think we're all ready to do everything we can to ensure that we fulfill our mission and our promise to this community. So I had to work extra hard to be sure that I was prepared to compete, because I had more emotional investment in this job than I felt like anybody else would, because I've walked those halls. I've dealt with those struggles that we all talk about. But despite all that, I'm like, this is such a great university, and it deserves every accolade, every attention that we can give it. But you've got to have, for me, that passion for your community. And these gentlemen, each of you represent that, because we're doing above and beyond what we are traditionally signed up to do, to ensure that we connect with our community and show them that this is a place for opportunity and prosperity.
There's another thing, within our discussion, I sort of want to touch on, because there's always going to be this argument out there. So we're a Hispanic serving institution, and so we have international professors, African American, white, as well as the same breakdown in students. And sometimes when faced with this type of passion for the mission that we've been talking about, people feel threatened.
Yep.
And so how do we address? Well, basically what I'm trying to say is we're a Hispanic serving institution, but not an exclusively Hispanic serving institution. So how do we gain the identity that we historically have had without excluding African Americans or whites, or have students who are not Hispanic and faculty are not Hispanic coming in and asking the question, well, where do I fit in?
Well, I think we already have that. I think what we haven't had is a true AHSI. We have that right now, and it's working very well for us. However, sometimes I hear my students complain of, here comes another mariachi band. Although our mariachi is not as good as it used to be, or we don't have one. I'm not saying that it's not good. I'm sorry. But sometimes we're too much in your face as an Hispanic serving institution and as an Hispanic culture area. And that has to be taken into account. We do that with equity and diversity and inclusion. We have to have equity, diversity, and inclusion programs for all of our students. We have to work at that. And that's not just the people of color. That's the people who need help in many areas. But we have to have that, and we have had that. We've been lucky that we have done that, thanks to the faculty and administrators that we have had in the past. So what we're doing now with the Hispanic Faculty Council is kind of trying to push the envelope a little bit to make sure that people know that we are an HSI and that we're proud to be an HSI. Some Hispanic students come to our college now and they don't see that, and they wonder if they're proud. I'm going to guarantee you right now, every Hispanic student that comes here or goes to any university in the state of Texas is proud to be Hispanic. They are. It's simple. We sing mariachi music. We dance. We do all kinds of things. We paint. We do everything. We're proud. Let's not lose that pride, but let's celebrate that pride. That's what I think we
Absolutely.
should do.
And I think the
we
point
are
that I was
already
trying-
everything else.
And you're absolutely correct. And I think the point that I was trying to get to for those who aren't a part of this conversation is that we're talking in some ways, and I was going to say, and I want to sort of change that now, what we're talking about is sort of culture affirmation. What I was going to say was a culture change. And for me, and this is something that I talk about, especially when I talk about a civil rights movement and other things in my history classes, that change is the scariest six-letter word in the English language.
Well, I think, Mike,
right.
that one of the most important things, and I think we need
And
to
that
work.
people are going to see this as change and feel threatened.
Allies are just as important
Yes.
as people of color, because you as a white man can do things and go places that I can't. Okay, and if you look at the social movement, if you look at the Chicano movement, could Chavez have had success without Kennedy or LBJ? No. He would have had some
Definitely
movement.
not
you know,
without Dolores Huerta.
and Dolores Huerta, right? So allies. So one of the things we need to do, and very important, is also bring them to the table. I have faculty that have been here 20, 30 years that have never visited South Texas, where students come from. How are you going to understand our students living in colonias, living in an occupied territory, a police state, if you never go there? You know what I mean? You're in my office all the time asking me questions. You know, you and our departments, they're different, right? But it's just as important for us to make those allies and make them understand that, hey, you have a vested interest too, because they look to you also. And you know what? Connect someone's culture with your culture. There's always connections between anything. You and I, as a poor white and maybe a poor
I wasn't
Latino.
poor white. I grew up actually quite privileged.
No, but
so.
I mean, somewhere along the line, one of your ancestors was poor.
My father, yeah,
You know what I
and
mean?
mother, but-
And so at one point, you know, we have to make those allies, immigrant experience, right? And allies, understanding that you don't come with the gods, the missionary sort of God syndrome that I'm going to say to everybody, but as an ally, listening and where can I help? You know what I mean? And so bringing those allies to the table are just as important as having more faculty of color, because that needs, and that bonds people, right? If I can connect with, you know, a Kuwaiti professor or an African Nigerian professor, man, and we talk all day. And so we need to be also vested as a system to incorporate allies and incorporate them into the conversation.
These, well said, these HSI efforts and really resources, federal monies and anything that we do are never designed to exclude any student. This is for all students. All students benefit from something very targeted that we're doing specifically to really own our backyard. We need to own our backyard and be proud of the fact that it is predominantly Hispanic, and that's okay. It's not a crutch. It's not something that we need to be, well, what do we, no. It's really anyone that steps foot on our campus is going to understand the culture. It's rich in culture, rich in art, rich in traditions, and embrace it, understand it. And I think at the end of the day, make that individual even more aware and sensitive to others, right? Which in essence, I think, will help those individuals transform maybe some of those biases that have long been ingrained in families by being able to see outside of their own space. And that's what a college campus does for individuals. It gets them thinking outside of their own world, their own space, to maybe appreciate your neighbor a little bit better, you know, and understand, you know, some of the struggles that maybe your neighbor, your colleague have gone through. And maybe the role is an ally, right? To say, you know what, I may not understand, just like you admitted, Mike, but you said, you know what, I'm here, I understand, because someone broke the mold from that generational kind of poverty to say, I'm going to step up and hit a home run. How many students that are walking our halls are doubling down to say, if I can just get through and hit a home run, I begin to change the course of my family forever, you know? And that's the pressure that a lot of our most marginalized Latino students are carrying in their, you know, carrying with them to say, it's all on me. I've got to break this mold so that I can hopefully represent something aspirational, something bigger than ourselves when it comes from generation to generation. I truly believe that.
Okay, I'm gonna, with your permission, I'm gonna say some other things. The Chicano Revolution, La Raza Unida program, all that started here.
Yeah.
Honestly, started at Texas A&I University, now Texas A&M University, Kingsville. We could not have done it as students. We could not have done that as students without the backing of the white faculty members. Dr. Bittinger, Dr. Albro, Dr. Stembaugh, and others. They were there for us when we were protesting in the streets. They were there for us when we rallied in front of the Student Union building. They were there kind of coaching us and teaching us as a mentor, but not as a mentor in revolution, as a mentor in thinking. Think of what you're doing.
Yes.
And these people were God sent to us, to the Raza Unida Party, to Carlos Guerra, to José Ángel Gutiérrez, to Mario Compan, and all those people that were out there doing that. And yes, we, as a Mexican-American youth organization, as PASO, as La Raza Unida even, we wanted to change the world. And what that meant was we wanted to change our world. And I wonder, if we hadn't said that in the 1960s, could we have gotten this far in the civil rights movement for Chicanos? Could we have gotten somebody like Carlos Truan and Irma Rangel elected to the legislature? We elected those people. We worked their campaigns. So we wanted to change the world, not necessarily the culture. No, they would help to change the culture, but no, change the world that we're in. We definitely wanted that. And I have to thank one more person as I'm talking about this.
Please.
This Dr. Jernigan. Dr. Jernigan, the Jernigan Library, he went with us to petition the city of Kingsville-Clayburgh, and Corpus Christi City Council to allow the Hispanic students from Texas A&I University to become part of South Texas, to be given internships, to be given jobs in the refineries. He's the first one to do that. And, he's got a library name for him.
Yeah.
But
he did
wow.
something right? But and those continue. I mean, I think if we would have gone as Hispanic Faculty Council just to the dean or just to the provost, they could have said, we don't want to hear it. But we had that history, and the people understood that they could provide something and we could provide something. And throughout history, I mean, it's still going on today, right? I mean, and it's something that has to be recognized. And people say, well, you're a sellout. No. It's allies are just as important as the movement itself. And that's when you start changing worlds. You know what I mean? That's when you start changing the idea, the ideology of people, right? I mean, for all of us now, it's not whether our kids go to college, it's where they're going to go to college, because we stand on the shoulders of giants, such as, Chavez, and Jose Angel, Corky, Tejerina, and many, many others, And so, and MLK and Malcolm, because you know what? I mean, they also pushed the envelope, and by them getting rights, we got rights. And it worked off each other in the Asian community also. So I think one of the things that gets lost too many times is that ally word, and it really matters.
Yes. And one thing, a point that really needs to be made, and you just mentioned rights. Rights are not a zero-sum solution. Just because other groups, other people gain rights does not mean others are losing them,
right?
Or I'm losing them. Just because Hispanics are gaining more rights, whites aren't losing them.
And that's important to say, because that's been the argument, right?
Yes.
The pinning against each other, right? Yes. Well, you get this, and I get.
So I lose something.
Yeah,
right?
and it's not the way. We all win.
Yeah, we all win.
That's
right.
Interesting.
So one final question. We have still a couple of minutes left. If you had one thing that you can sort of wave a wand and change, one small thing, what would you do it for this campus? What is, I guess, maybe in your top wish list for the campus, for our students and for our faculty? Anybody?
I'm doing it, man. I'm lucky that
That's what I was pointing at.
I just got it. I mean, this is. I tell everybody there's only two positions I ever wanted in my life outside of being an academic. That was be camp program director, college migrant assistant program, because that's how I went to college, or a CMOS or a MOS director. And I mean, I'm so excited, man. It's just, many of you guys know I don't mind working. I'm doing it, man. I'm doing it, and that's so exciting, to actually be doing what I want. I'm teaching students. I have this center. I have this institute. I'm super excited. I mean, and all this happened, Dr. Vela, within the last 3 months. It wasn't even something that was planned, and it just people stepped up and allies, and the work that we've put together as faculty council, Hispanic faculty council. I'm living the dream. I went from an editor from a journal to a tenure track faculty to getting tenure to doing this. So I'm probably like with Vela, like this is like the dream job. I mean, I'm doing it. Yeah.
Dr. Vela?
I think.
And you're in the greatest position to affect any change on this campus as being the president.
So I just, for me, it's just one role of many roles, especially of each of you, and what it's going to take to fulfill our mission. I just really see that's just a role in that mission that we love so much. But for me, I would love for all of us to be in a mindset of excellence. Is how do we create excellence for our students through teaching and learning facilities, engagement, everything that we do, because oftentimes, and I'm only speaking from experience here, when you grow up poor, you get used to just getting whatever you can to get by, and I think our students deserve so much more of us, from us as leaders in this field. And I always, for me, whether we're walking across the halls or the campus, what is our role in ensuring that everything that we represent in this community is of excellence? Maybe there's a piece of paper on the floor on your way in and that's not my job. That's, is our culture more of, and our attitude is like, no, that is my job. This is my institution and I'm proud of it. And what are we going to do? So I think if students begin to experience excellence, they begin to want it and demand it for themselves. They're going to want it. They're going to know what it is now. It's contagious. Excellence is contagious. And I think for me, I aspire not just through what I expect. It's more about how am I going to live my life every day to serve as a role model for others and live by those standards, which is really, I think, centered around servant leadership, really. That's the essence, I think, of creating those types of environments. So for me, this is an amazing institution. And I want to ensure that every student knows it, and they're going to achieve greatness here.
Dr. Flores, I'll give you the second to last word. It's my show, and I'll have the last.
It's your show, of course. No, well, listen, I want our students to be proud of attending Texas A&M University, Kingsville. I want them to know that not only are we an Hispanic Serving Institution, we can do that easier than I think we can, but that we are a historical institution. We have been a university of opportunity for South Texas for almost 100 years or something like this. I don't know anymore right now, but we have to be proud, and we've had so many wonderful graduates of every color, and this is a fantastic opportunity. I want them to be proud. I say that because I have a class that is all freshmen, and I don't know if they're proud to attend Texas A&M University, Kingsville. I want them to understand that, and I don't know how we can do that. The only way we can do it is every faculty member that they have, every faculty member for their students starts bragging about our university and starts, instead of tearing it down. I think too many of us tear down our university for being various things. All we care about is football. All we care about is athletics. Not true. All we care about is Hispanics. Like when I teach Hispanics in the media, why are you teaching the kids Hispanics in the media?
Because every other class is whites in the media.
Yeah. What do they need to learn about what's going on in Mexico? No, it says Hispanics in American media. That's the name of the book, and that's the class, Hispanics in American movies. Why are you teaching that? Why not? Darn it, let me teach it. It's good for them. They'll learn it. The classes are full. So I want our students to be proud, and each faculty member, regardless of race, color, or creed, has it upon themselves to make sure that the students understand that this is a very historic and important institution that is going to change their lives.
So to paraphrase the godfather of soul, James Brown, say it loud, I'm Javelina, I'm proud.
There you go.
So
leave it to you to put it to the point.
So to put an ending point on this, what I would wish for all of our students is to do what former founding member of Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee John Lewis and former U.S. House of Representatives go get into some good trouble. Be courageous. Speak truth to power.
Yes.
So I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. This has been Buckle Up. Hopefully we got into a little good trouble, didn't shy away from controversy. So until next time, this is Dr. Michael Huff. You've been listening to KTAI FM 91, The One. Talk to you next time.